Welcome back to Upon Further Review. Joining us now to discuss one of the marquee programs in women's college basketball. He's the author of The Republic of Football, Legends of Texas High School Game. And he's also the Waco Tribune Herald Tribune sports writer, Chad Conine. Chad, thanks for joining us this morning. Is there snow on the ground there in Waco right now?
Thank you for having me. There is not, but I rolled back from Colorado last week where we had, I think, 13 inches of snow where I was at in southern Colorado, and then it snowed all the way down through Lubbock and Post and Sweetwater, Texas. I'm sure y'all are familiar with where Post and Sweetwater, Texas are.
Well, my grandmother grew up in McGregor, so not far from where you
guys
are.
Okay, yeah, McGregor's right down the road. I mean, I go to Sunday lunch in McGregor.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Very good.
Yep.
So, Chad, starting off with, we were talking in the news about how just recently Coach Kim Mulkey, the national championship winning coach and a fixture there, an icon now, and now a Hall of Famer, and both both the playing side and the coaching side, did test positive last week for COVID-19. How is her condition at this moment?
I haven't had direct contact with her. I'm doing a feature on one of the players, and she was nice enough to answer some questions via email and text message yesterday. But that was a lot. Like a lot of these COVID situations have been. She contact traced over Christmas, and then missed Saturday's game at TCU because she was in the contact tracing, and then returned to the program on Monday after the CDC recommended time, and that's when she tested positive. So now clearly she didn't have symptoms up through Monday, because why would she go back around her team if she had symptoms, right? And then she tests positive, and then she's, and I've been told by our men's beat writer who I was hanging out with last night that Scott Drew, when he tested positive, he didn't have symptoms either.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're at kind of with that.
Have other players been tested at this time, and have they all come out clear so far?
Well, the thing you've got to understand about Baylor, however much privacy is protected at state schools and other schools, just turn that up to 11 when it comes to Baylor. So
okay.
Wow. But one of the players, Jordan Oliver, did not make the trip to the TCU game last Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she hasn't left the program, so one would assume that she had contact tracing or a positive test as well. And just in brief conversations with them yesterday and doing this interview, I got the feeling that, there were a few contact tracing people and a few that could still meet together and practice, because they have not paused team activities. They've restricted activities. So that's, the nomenclature and verbiage of COVID-19, you kind of, they make it a little bit possible to read between the lines.
Chad, what is the situation in the state of Texas in terms of intercollegiate athletics? And I ask that question through this lens. There's been tension between Governor Abbott and various localities in Texas. So how is that, if at all, affecting the different schools in Texas? And are there differences between Power Fives and smaller schools, or is it more about just the localities in which the various schools exist? And how is that ripple effect manifesting itself in the Big 12 and everywhere else in Texas?
Right. Well, I think I can speak from a Big 12 perspective mainly, and I think what's happening within the Big 12 is everybody, but except for maybe UT, is saying, okay, what are we required to do with this? And so, like places like Texas Tech and Baylor and TCU that I was at Saturday, they're allowing fans at limited capacity in games, and the players are testing, according to what's been laid out by NCAA standards. But from the people that I'm around, and especially within athletics, I think everybody is very appreciative of the way Governor Abbott has handled things and has allowed people to uh, go about their lives and protect themselves in whatever ways they might protect themselves and make their own decisions. I mean, I think there's respect for anybody that wants to opt out and not play because of their safety. I think people understand that decision. I can't. I know like Stephen F. Austin and Sam Houston and those schools are playing basketball. I think they played a limited football schedule. Some of the smaller schools I know, there's a school in our area, Mary Hardin Baylor, that's been very prominent on the division, whatever they are, scene. They've played 4 and won national championships, and they did not play football in the fall. And I think part of it comes down to a money situation. I mean, I don't think Mary Hardin Baylor could afford to test all of its players, and they have like 200 players in their football program or more.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't test 200 guys every week. If you're Mary Hardin Baylor and you have, maybe 5,000, 10,000 people at your football games, on a regular year. And so I think, you follow the money more so than you follow people pushing against or following what the legislatures had said in Texas in terms of what has to be done with COVID-19. I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Give us a snapshot, Chad, based on your understanding of following the program. What does the day-to-day and the week-to-week look like in terms of practice? First of all, is Baylor remote learning right now and the players are still playing? Or is it a partially open campus or a fully open campus at this point?
I believe I think you would probably call it partially open, somewhere between partially open and fully open. I have a friend who is in the speech pathology master's program at Baylor, and I know she was participating in her classes mostly. When she did her student teaching at a high school, and so she was in person there. Some of her classes were online, especially through the summer, they were online. And so, things are so easy to manage online these days with a class that's maybe what they do a lot of the time. I have another friend who is the photo editor at the Waco Trib who also teaches photography at Baylor, and it's not as easy for him to manage his class because photography is something that you have to go out and shoot stuff, and then
right.
I think they can turn it in via a Dropbox and whatever. But I think it's been a little bit more difficult for him to manage his classes. He's also 65, and so there's a generational situation. Although Rod is pretty astute technologically, you have to be if you're a photographer, the way things advance in that business and that craft. But in Texas, there has been a huge resistance to saying online only and saying, we're going to keep kids online and away from campus. The high schools where I live, they went to class up through the Friday before Christmas, which I believe was the 18th, and they went back to school on January 4th. So people are in school, and I have I have a nephew who did online learning as a lot of his football teammates did through the fall, because their theory was they weren't going to get exposed to somebody in their geometry class, and it was going to knock them out of a football game. And so they did online learning, and they showed up for practice and whatever. And I can say that did not work out real well academically. So, and I won't say anything more specific than that, even though I doubt my nephew's going to listen to the podcast. But